on a logical plane, on an intellectual plane, on an emotional plane, or on a spiritual plane. So Bhagavad Gita, knowledge is defined in a very interesting way. Rather, knowledge is defined in a three-dimensional plane. It says, who is a person who is in knowledge? One who has footing or projection on the three-dimensional plane. One who knows matter, spirit, and the controller of both. That's the three-dimensional plane. The matter, spirit, and the controller of both. Such a person is called as a person in knowledge. Now let's try to understand an example to get a feel of, or to get to feel or picturize that yes, there are deeper dimensions than what is just gross, than what is just visible from a superficial perspective. Now if you have a bowl of rasgullas, so if the question or the problem statement is what is a rasgulla, and if the approach to the problem which we decide upon is a compositional approach, analyzing the physical properties, the anatomy, the chemical composition, the energy, the entropy, the Gibbs free energy, the thermodynamic stability, and so on and so forth. Yes, we can we can come up with a description statement of what does a rasgulla look like. So yes, if one sees from a mechanistic perspective in that way, one can say yes, rasgulla a rasgulla is an aggregate of some brownish spherical globules having a core shell morphology with the uh, radial distribution or the radial density uh, tapering as the radii increases, and the porosity increasing as the radii increases. And it's not linear, it's non-linear decrease and a non-linear decline and a non-linear increase in the decline in the density and the increase in the porosity. And we can say yes, this globules are suspended in a viscous solution or a viscous fluid. Does it sound scientific? Yes, it does, is it not? And mind it, if we want to analyze from that perspective, this is the kind of definition we will come up with, and we can give some graphs and we can give some numbers telling yes, what is the mean, no, what is the viscosity, what is the porosity, what is the radial density value, what is its mean value, what is the no, variance, give all that. But the point to note is that doing so, we are missing a very important dimension, a very important dimensional characteristic of a Rasgulla. That is the experience what it can offer to us. So therefore it does not require a PhD into analytical chemistry to be able to understand or to be able to explain what is a Rasgulla. Even a child can explain what is a Rasgulla, and anybody can understand by popping a Rasgulla in the mouth. So in this way we can try to understand, or we can try to appreciate, that mechanistic approach falls short of describing experience. And in fact, if we can try to understand that, anything in the world around us, whatever be the thing, anything in the world around us, what its compositional analysis is, in one sense, may not be much important to us, or may not help us much, is it? I mean, how does it matter if something is made of anthracene, or it's azobenzene complex? How does it matter to us? What matters to us is the experience, is it not? So in that sense, we can understand that yes, there are these levels of knowledge. And we need to understand which aspect of knowledge is most important for us. Like here, a mechanistic description or a graphical plot is not very important to us, but what is more important to us is the experience what it can create. In this way, we can try to understand that mechanistic study of the world around us is limited, limits our experience, limits our spectrum, and therefore we cannot go. Therefore, this mechanistic approach to life cannot take us much further on the journey of fulfillment and happiness. We need to acknowledge that there are other dimensions. The dimension of experience is more important. Now when we talk about experience, we are acknowledging the presence of the person experiencing, who is experiencing. Matter cannot experience matter. Now one matter, another matter, how does it matter? So if matter is if matter or a combination and permutation of matter gives different experience, that means the moment we talk about experience, we are talking of an entity which is beyond matter, who is experiencing, who is the perceptor, and therefore the immediate second dimension has to be accepted and understood. That is the dimension of the spirit, who is the perceptor or the experiencer. And that's why if we just limit our understanding to matter, then it won't change the index of our life to a substantial extent. We have to accept the dimension, the existence, the understanding of the spirit, which is the second dimension. So matter itself cannot talk about the experience from another matter. How? So to prove that, let's see an example. Just like we can say, yes, a computer can tell us the exact color combination of a painting, but can the computer tell us whether the painting is beautiful or not? Whether the painting is beautiful or not. Now we may say, well, yes, we can come to some understanding of it. Machine learning can do that. Artificial intelligence can do that. But the point is that intrinsically, artificial intelligence is dependent on intelligence of persons. Artificial intelligence is all about borrowed intelligence, is it not? So now if you want to make an artificial intelligence or an AI algorithm which takes a painting and which tells that whether it is beautiful or not, we have to take, so we have to first take human data. That means reach out to a good number of uh, say uh, people who have an artistic who have a artistic knack, or who have a substantial amount of artistic intelligence that they can tell this is beautiful or not. So you have to reach out to various levels of people having different levels of artistic intelligence, show 300-400 images, paintings to each of them, and they will mark whether it's beautiful, not sure, and then take a combination of all that, feed it to the algorithm. That's machine learning. And now when a new painting is coming, this machine learning algorithm is trying to figure out that, okay, this what has come, this is a new painting, and I have never seen this in my training. In the paintings which were marked by by so many people, this painting was not there. So now I can try to fit this painting somewhere near whatever I had learned, and then based on the conclusions of those people, that okay, now if those people are marking that set of paintings and this painting comes close to that, then give that kind of and that classification whether it is beautiful or not beautiful, is it not? So that means matter itself has no power to talk about experience. It's the dimension of spirit. It's the dimension of spirit. Whether borrowed or direct, it is the spirit. So any observer can talk about or can immediately tell, yes, the color painting is so beautiful. So in that sense, we can understand that machines may be able to tell us when it comes to mechanistic composition, morphology. Machines may be able to figure out better than us. Like even if a judge of a painting, he may not be able to, if we ask him, okay, you saw that painting, can you give a spectrum of how much component each color of the RGB spectrum was there, he may not be able to do that. But he can tell whether this painting was good or not, whether this painting was signifying a meaningful idea, or it was some random, or it was maybe not ethical, or what it was. Painter can tell. But if you ask him, okay, how much percentage of red was there, green was there, magenta was there, cyan was there, he may not be able to. Is it not? For that, machine can do that. So this way, we can understand that yes, we need to open up our dimensions. So rather, we can see that modern day, when you talk about, so nowadays, modern day, the dimension which or the direction which modern day research is taking is a very much interdisciplinary shape, because people and scientists and researchers are coming to acknowledge that actually the world is not compartmentalized. I mean, for convenience sake, we can say, okay, this is mechanical engineering, and this is chemical, and this is physical, this is physics, and this is electronics, and this is electrical, and this is the mathematical, and this is computer science. But actually the world is holistic, the world is one. So therefore scientists and researchers are coming to acknowledge that therefore if they can combine multiple streams and with that combined vision see a problem, then the solution is much more robust. And therefore we are seeing new trends into research that people, they are forced to become more and more interdisciplinary. So one who is understanding researching on physics, he also has to pick up electrical, and one who is doing chemical also has to pick up computer science, or or people of interdisciplinary interests are coming together, understanding that okay, I have a limited vision, I have a limited vision. Together we see, no, we can approach a problem in a better way, and in this way, interdisciplinary research gets a more powerful impact. So that goes to show that yes, a particular stream of matter is very limited actually. But then you combine streams and your vision enhances actually. You combine the streams, your vision is enhancing. So this is the point. This is the point which we need to understand. That so now if we now extrapolate this and if we generalize this further and further, we can say that yes, in that sense, to understand that a completely material vision also is going to be limited, which is the mechanistic vision. And if we add spirit to it, that vision expands. We add spirit to that vision expands. So the reality is all about how broad, how penetrating, how deep is our vision. If we have a shallow vision, we may be able to present a very powerful picture of reality, but that picture will not appeal to us and not do anything good, any good to us, not to anyone else. But if that vision is broad, deep, penetrating, then it can create a powerful punching impact. So similarly, we can see the same attitude is there in business. Like in business, they talk about that. Okay, you have an idea, you're thinking from many times one may get you're thinking from your perspective of maybe what you can understand, what you can see, and they say okay, before you launch an idea in business, you take the opinion of different spectrums of people from different backgrounds. The more you take opinions, the more one is going to get eureka, because one will be able to getting some results or knowledge from which angle one has never seen, and if one incorporates all that, then that product starts becoming more and more robust and impactful. Otherwise the product is launched and it fails. Why? Because it was now molded, or it was framed from a very narrow vision, and therefore it couldn't appeal much to the society. So this is the direction we are talking about. Now the question is therefore that now, so therefore the next question which comes is that, or the next understanding which is coming is that a single individual in itself or in himself or herself is a limited controller. Thomas Huxley makes an interesting statement. He says there is a third thing to the universe, to wit, consciousness, which I cannot see to be matter or force. So Huxley is pointing out that yes, there is something which is antimatter, which is the matrix of our existence. Therefore, in that sense, we can see that yes, scientists are also acknowledging the presence of the dimension of spirit. The dimension of spirit. The next point is that when we talk about an individual spirit soul, an individual person, we can understand that we have a certain spectrum of knowledge which is limited, and therefore our controllership, our reach, our vision is all but limited. That's at best. So therefore we can understand, yes, matter cannot describe the dimension of experience, and therefore matter in itself, or a mechanistic approach in itself is quite limited. Now the spirit also has limited controllership. There is minute controllership to the spirit. Just like here we see in the slide, we can see that yes, bulb as a matter is controlled. I mean, anyone can switch it off and on. So any user, any of us can now barge in a room, and we have a control which is limited. That means what? That we can switch on or switch off the bulb. There are only two things which we can do, on or off, is it not? So we have a limited control. So as in terms of spirit, the spirit is having a limited control, and therefore if you want to get the best vision of reality, or the best matrix, or the best matrix of how to the art of living, the art of dying, the art of happiness, the art of fulfillment, then we have to understand that yes, from matter we need to go to the plane of spirit, and that gives us a better purview. But if we want the best purview, we have to add the supreme controller. Analogy is given that just like you may have a house which is full of appliances, and there are so many electric circuitries and appliances, very complicated and very with designer bulbs and so on and so forth, and you can switch on, switch off. But suppose that the power station has scheduled a power cut, and there is no main supply only coming to your house, then all these gadgets, or all these lighting equipments, or these lighting gadgets will be ineffective. Why? Because the main supply is only not there. So an individual user, here the example is given that we as an individual user are minute controllers, and who is the supreme controller? The mains, the power station in that sense. So now, just like in this power station is the supreme controller, similarly in life we can understand God is the supreme controller. So we are limited controllers. We can tune in things to a certain extent. But if we connect to God, God can tune in everything. And that's why the third dimension, that is understanding and knowledge of the supreme controller, is most important. Let's take a few more examples to understand this. Let's take a few more examples. Just like one time, one of my friends, he was explaining about his business journey, and I asked him that so he keeps on investing in new companies, and like a venture capitalist, and growing the companies and getting partnership in those companies, and he keeps roaming around like a freelance, and then keeps investing in new companies and getting a lot of money out of it. I asked him, so how did you start all this? What was the starting point, the fountainhead point, like that? And he said, actually my uncle, he had a company which was manufacturing electrical appliances, and he said, in our family, uncle's family, my family, I'm the only son, so I'm the only heir to everything. So uncle started this company, and it became quite established. He said, this company itself gives me 8 crore profit in a year. Profit. He said, and I don't have to be there also. It is managed by my aunt and mother, and the day-to-day running is managed by them. So I am like a freelance in that sense, but I get 8 crore in my pocket every year, and that gives him that seed, that money corpus, which he keeps investing, and then getting more and more money out of it. So he was explaining to me that actually his uncle started the whole business from scratch, and he said, my uncle had a strategy. I said, oh, what is the strategy? So he said, my uncle always used to hire underqualified people. I said, really? Amazing. So he said he would only hire 10th pass people, not even 12th. He said underqualified people. And he said uncle had a complete idea of what this industry was and each and every aspect of the manufacturing process. He said what he did is he taught every such underqualified person or a 10th pass person only a very small aspect of the manufacturing process. He just taught him that very small aspect. And because they were underqualified, he gave them less salary, obviously. And because he taught them only something which was very, very limited, in due course of time, all of them became perfectionists in that small thing because it is a small thing, anyone can master, and they became really perfect. Now came, in the years to come, this strategy of the uncle proved out to be very successful. Why? Because now these people became very expert in their job, and therefore the net job started coming to be very powerful, and therefore the profit of the industry started increasing. On the second hand, these people were being paid less salary because they were less qualified. And now they had got expertise, but because they knew only something which is very, very limited, they were not in a position to get a job anywhere outside in the world because they knew something very, very limited, so limited that nobody else will consider their knowledge as knowledge, like that, because it was not broad enough, and therefore these people. So in this way, therefore these people had to stay with the company, and they were minting a lot of profit for the company. Why? Because the company was paying them less, and the work which was coming was perfectionist work. So in this way, we can try to understand that yes, this particular employee, all he got was a very minute control, is it not? Whereas a person who actually, whereas a person who was behind, now he was turning things in a very big way. He was turning money in such a big way because he had a broader spectrum of knowledge. So this is the point. In fact, much of this approach is adopted by any kind of company setup, even software companies. Just like if you work in a software company, the company is never going to give you exposure of the full spectrum of the product development cycle. That okay, what all things from scratch are required, from architectural setup, from hardware setup to the delivery. Because if somebody gets the full exposure, he can mint out a lot of money. Whereas a person who has a very limited exposure, he will get a certain amount of salary, but then the people behind, they make a huge amount of profit on that. Just like say companies like say IBM or Cognizant or Infosys, particular they may give a starting salary of say 30,000 or 25,000 to a person, and when they bill for this person, they will charge $15, $20 per hour, like that, which comes out to so they may mint around, they may pay 2 lakh, but they may mint around 2 lakh, they may pay 25,000 and mint out 2 lakhs, or if the person has gone outside, then they mint out 8 lakhs, but they are only paying him 25,000 per month. So it's like that. In this way, we can understand that if our knowledge expands, then our turnover increases. So this is the meaning of minute controllership. That a minute controllership means limited knowledge, and therefore the turnover, the impact is going to be very limited. So it's not possible for us to know everything. One time, one person very enthusiastic, he started performing tapasya. He started worshipping Lord Brahma, and he was very severe, very austere, very determined. So he performed rigorous tapasya, and Brahmaji appeared. And Brahmaji told him, okay, what do you want? And Brahmaji was having 4 heads. So that's like a 4-core multiprocessor system actually, which is or 4-core supercomputer system, 4 heads, 4 brains, like that, to take care of or to control or manage the 4 dimensions of this world, in our 4-dimensional world. So Brahmaji asked him, what do you want? He said, I want the benediction, Brahmaji. You give me the benediction, and the benediction I want to ask is that you please give me your intelligence. And he thought he asked a very powerful thing. Now he's going to smash in the world, he'll become a Nobel laureate, everything, because he's getting Brahma's intelligence. Again. So Brahmaji told him, very deadly, don't ask such benedictions. And he said, Brahmaji, you are getting a complex. You are not giving the benediction. You have to give me this benediction. Brahmaji said, no, for your good I am warning you. This will have hazardous consequences. You won't be able to digest it. He said, no, I just want your intelligence. You just download everything in my system. And Brahmaji, was commenting. Brahmaji said, please reconsider. He said, no, considered everything, you lock it, and let's the download will start. Do you have internet issues at your from your side? Brahmaji said, our internet connectivity very good, don't worry. And Brahmaji said, okay, so be it, because this man was insistent and adamant, and because this man was insistent and adamant, Brahmaji said, okay, fine. And then what happened is that Brahma's intelligence started getting downloaded, but Brahma's intelligence was so unlimited, overwhelming, infinite, that this person's head exploded and he died. So the point is that for us, it is not possible to get to understand everything actually. But the same predicament can be solved if we can just take shelter of God who knows everything. So therefore, we don't have to understand everything. If we depend on God, whatever we need at the given point of time, the Lord inspires the living entity. The Lord directs the living entity's journey. Actually, the Lord directs the living entity's journey. So in that way, we can make the best out of this world. In that way, we can make the best out of this world. So this is the point which we have to understand. That we have to understand that we are limited. To get complete knowledge, we need God in our lives. We need God in our lives to access the deepest recesses of our heart, to be able to get a handle, to change our mentality, to be able to get our handle, to change our behavioral, our thought processes, the way we think, the way we deal. Many times we see on a materialistic note, it is very difficult to bring about a change. We see many times people are having very peculiar behavioral traits which may be even annoying to themselves. Like say for example, somebody is is an angry person, very easily gets angry, and for such a person, he also knows that because he gets angry and he bashes up everybody, people are afraid, his relationships are getting affected. But for him, it is very difficult to bring about a change, even if he's seeing the hazardous effects of that. So on a material plane, there is no change. But if one adopts a spiritual plane, then the change comes about so natural. Why? Because God is having the admin passwords of our heart, and if we connect to God, then our hearts change, and therefore it is explained that if we take shelter of God, all the divine qualities get installed in one system. So this is the point. For people to be able to tolerate, it's very difficult. So it requires. So that's the point. That from a material vision, we have no footing actually, because the material plane is shallow and the material plane is constantly changing. But if we have a footing in shelter of the Lord, at the Lord's lotus feet is a solid footing. On that basis, on the basis of that footing, one can exhibit divine qualities. One can tolerate, sacrifice, see everyone as one's own, or relate with everyone, empathize with anyone and everyone. So that's why it's logical and reasonable. Not just to include God in our lives as a final rubber stamp, but to see everything in our lives or to channelize everything in our lives from the vision the Lord is showing us. To channelize everything in our lives in an attempt to circumambulate the Lord, to offer it to the Lord. That's what uh, that's what can make things perfect and complete. So matter is controlled, the spirit is a minute controller, and the super soul is the supreme controller. The super soul is the supreme controller. Just like now in the pages of Mahabharata we see Abhimanyu knew the knowledge of how to enter a Chakravyuh. He knew the knowledge, how to face it. He knew how to enter and how to give a tough fight. That's what he had heard, that's what he had learned. So he knew that half knowledge. And we know the pastime. So he knew that half knowledge, and therefore, when the six Maharathis were, and the Kauravas, they created the Chakravyuh, it was Abhimanyu who entered and gave them a tough fight. What he didn't know was how to get out of it. Like that. So, and therefore, no, and therefore he didn't win, but he offered everything to, he offered his life, his attempt, his knowledge to Krishna. Yes, obviously, because he acted on behalf of the Lord, the Lord reciprocated with him by giving him entrance into the spiritual world. Abhimanyu went back to Godhead. But the lesson here we learn is this, that because, so Abhimanyu's knowledge was half knowledge, is it not? Abhimanyu's knowledge was half knowledge. So we see that, okay, only material knowledge can tell us, okay, how to enter the Chakravyuh. But when we have knowledge of spirit and the supreme spirit, that is the super soul God, then we know how to get out of the Chakravyuh as well, and we can become completely victorious. We can become completely victorious. So that is the idea, and therefore now we need, and therefore we can see that how well grained this description of knowledge is. The knowledge, how how logical, how deep, how impactful the description of Bhagavad Gita is. The instructions of the Lord are that right from the beginning they teach us that yes, just don't be mechanistic. Understand that there are levels which are deeper than a mechanistic understanding. To understand the subtle plane, the plane where the mental energies are, and then understand that the spirit is more important than the mental plane, the soul, and then understand that the soul is limited, but the super soul is unlimited, and we access the super soul, or we access the grace or the powers of super soul channelized in our life, the powers of God, the powers of divinity channelized into our lives by Sharnagati or dependence. So that is the art of living. That is the art of steering through. That is the art of emancipation. That is the art of being victorious in life and beyond life eternally. Let's try to ponder over let's try to ponder over material nature, the universe, the cosmic machine, The universe is a mind-boggling, intellectualizing, uh, overwhelming machinery, which is so complicated, so intricate, so precise, so amazing, so amazing. Yeah, actually, no, it has become, or we can see from the history, we can see from the bygone ages, or we can see from centuries. We are we are embarking on an eternal quest just to understand this cosmic universe. And therefore, you see, the whole attempt of humanity is to get some understanding. But as we progress, we see that we are able to one can just go on wondering, because the more one progresses, the more one understands that this cosmic machinery or this complicated universe is much more complicated than we had thought of previously. So it's just like scientists for many decades, they were on a drive to research into the fundamental principles which can bring together the apparent contradicting and conflicting domains of laws of physics, the classical mechanics and quantum mechanics and relativistic mechanics. So they wanted to reconciliate everything into one fundamental vision and principle. And scientists were trying hard for so many decades to be able to punch that punch line or print that one formula which they were claiming to be theory of everything. That one formula, the theory of everything actually. So they were trying to fit in everything. And there was there was a big hype about this, and there were decades and decades of research. Finally, in one public press conference, the well-known scientist Stephen Hawking, he made the statement, a very he made a powerful statement. He said that I'm very happy to announce that uh, the humanity's quest for knowledge will never end. The humanity's quest for knowledge is never going to end. So that means what? That we will never get to know everything. The theory of everything is just not possible. We can just go on going nearer and nearer, because the more, so the scientists explain that the more we try to, we think that okay, this will take us nearer, but when we reach to the point where we had planned to reach, we see that the goal is much farther than what we had considered when we viewed from behind. And therefore the obvious conclusion was the humanity's quest for knowledge is never going to end. So the important question which comes up here is that why the humanity's quest for knowledge is never going to end? Are we missing a dimension in itself? What are we missing? What are we capturing, if at all we are capturing? For that, now to know that, we have to go into the dimensions of causality. So if we try to understand the modern day understanding of physics, or the modern day understanding of science, is not causal, actual. It's just a study of effects. Okay, laws are already existing, and now let's try to say that okay, how can we make a gadget which works in these laws and get some good output and make business? So, about tapping the existing laws. It's about tapping the existing effects, is it not? So when we talk about tapping, uh, we can make a toy which is titillating, which can give us some, which can entertain us for some time, which can enlighten us to some, which can give us some temporary titillating happiness. But that's about it. If we want anything more than that, we need to understand the dimension of causality. Now, can we say, is there any term called as C or cause in physics? Not at all. Is it not? So, in that sense, we can understand that now we want to know everything. If you want to, if you want to understand, this quest for knowledge is not just, so if we simply hover around on the plane of the effects, if we just let our understanding be limited to machine, then we can never understand things in completeness. Or forget about completeness, we can never understand things in sufficiency. So we need a sufficient understanding so that we can get a sufficiently fulfilling experience. That's all, is it not? A meaningful experience, that's all, is it not? So how much do we need to know? We don't need to know absolute complete, but we need to know that much that we can draw out meaning from a situation. That much we need to know. If we don't know that much, then the whole world appears to be so chaotic. The whole world appears to be so agonizing and chaotic. That's the point. So therefore, the Shastras are giving us such a powerful revelation. The Shastras are talking about is that if you let your understanding remain to the platform of machines, if you just see the whole world, Mother Nature as a machine, yes, there are machines. But if you just relate with the machine, then it is never, the understanding is never going to be sufficient. For sufficiency, for completeness for ourselves, what we need to understand is that behind the machine is the driver of the machine who is more important than the machine. We need to relate with the aspect that the driver of the machine drives the one who drives the machine is much more important than the machine. So even if one does not know the mechanisms of the machine, like say for example if the car, so here even if one does not know how much horsepower is the engine, if one does not know how the fuel gets converted into the kinetic energy and so on and so forth, if one doesn't understand the architecture design of the machine, what are the ingredients which the engine of the machine, engine of the car is made up of, if one doesn't understand all these things, all these details at all, but if one has good relationship with the driver of this machine, then one can get a very fulfilling experience of going on a drive on this machine, on this car, is it not? That's the point. So the Mercedes is parked and the Mercedes is speeding. What is the difference? Who makes the difference? It is the driver who makes the difference. And therefore, the knowledge of the driver is much more important. So what is apparently visible to us externally or on the first outface is the car. But just knowledge about the car is not sufficient, is it not? Like if we just see a car lying on the road, we may know actually how to ride the car, and we may even know how to open the lock without the key. But if we try to do that from behind, the driver may come and catch us and we may land up behind the prison, is it not? So just knowledge of matter is not sufficient. Just knowledge of the machine is not sufficient. Whereas if we don't know driving, we don't know how to open the car, But we know the driver, he may invite us to sit inside and give us a ride. That's the difference. So therefore, it's not logical to just limit ourselves to a superficial interface. Just like sometimes, okay, let's take another example. Let's take an example of words, linguistic. So words uh, have so words have, now one thing is to understand, to understand words from a literal sense. So we can memorize and we can just vomit out anytime it is asked. Like sometimes we see many children, they recite verses of Bhagavad Gita. One time one person came to Srila Prabhupada. He said, Swamiji, I know all the 700 verses of Gita. Which verse you want, I can recite to you. You want 12:12, you want 18:55, you want 2:48, you want 3:6, whatever you want, I will recite. Srila Prabhupada said, you please recite that verse of Bhagavad Gita which you are following. And this man was dumbfounded. No? He couldn't speak anything, he just went away. He felt so embarrassed, he went away. So why? Because, so you see the point. So many times children may recite shloka, but if you know, but more important than shloka is the meaning of the shloka. And more important than knowing the meaning is following the meaning, is it not? So that, so therefore, the external superficial interface is not all in all. And therefore, the machinery is not all in all. The driver behind the machinery is more important. It's just like so now the whole world is just like this. It's just like, suppose one goes to the house of an acquaintance, and as soon as one enters the house, one sees that okay, uh, there is a very ferocious, angry, seemingly bloodthirsty, hungry, and a bulldog, who is not chained and who is now coming, charging, and he is barking at you. So now if it is a bulldog who is about to attack you, who is barking at you, and who is leaping upon you, and person will get very frightened. It's a bulldog or a German shepherd. So now the point is that if you want to give a fight to a bulldog or German shepherd, it's not easy, is it not? Oh, that person is 4 feet high, and one paw and finish, is it not? And one set of teeth and finish, is it not? Can tear apart our flesh as well. So to give a tough fight to it is very difficult actually. The bulldog, who will face a bulldog? It's going to be, it's not at all easy. It will become very difficult, is it not? But now if one is so fearful and the bulldog is angry and barking and all, but then one sees that his friend comes out of the drawing room or into the veranda and he's shouting at the bulldog, Tommy, shut up, behave yourself. So immediately one will see that ferocious, frightening, horrifying bulldog turns into into a puppy. He just sits with his tail wagging. Oh, is it not? Why? Because the master of the bulldog knows how to control the bulldog. So many times we will see that the material energy is very powerful. Mankind has many times challenged the material energy, and mankind has been reduced to dust and powder in its challenge to the material energy. Material energy is so powerful. In fact, some lessons back when we studied about Adi Daivik Klesh, that is the fury of the material energy. When material energy wants to give a slap, mankind cannot face it. It is going to be impossible to overcome. The fury of the material energy, Adi Daivik Klesh. So floods, epidemics, pandemics. It's the fury of the material energy. When people are becoming more and more sinful, it's the fury of the material energy. So people are trying to exploit material energy. Material energy retaliates. Finished. The civilization only finished. Clean sweep. So we cannot challenge the material energy. It's so powerful. It is so overwhelming. It is so crushing. But the material energy is controlled by the master of it, and that is the Supreme Lord. The material energy is controlled by the Supreme Lord, and therefore, uh, if the master is in our favor, we don't have to fear anything. Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that we see uh, now when we look at the ocean is infinite and overwhelming. And Lord Krishna explains that now the ocean waters are there within their limits just because of fear of me. The Lord is controlling. Otherwise, you see how much is the water contained in an ocean, and a little bit here and there, the cities will get drowned. So, the master of material energy is more important. Let's take a few more examples to understand this. It's just like, say for example, one is studying in a college, then knowing the subject is important. If one knows, one practices, one studies, one will get good marks. But suppose uh, one picks up a fight with the professor, or one annoys the professor, or one acts too smart no, and tries to have a tussle with the professor, then one stands to lose. So then what is going to happen is that even if one has performed nicely, because the professor is unhappy, you will get less marks. So therefore, the professor angle is very important. The professor angle is very important. So that is why we can understand that to interface the world without God, the driver is so if you subtract God from the world, then the world becomes a sort of lifeless, just like a car without a driver. What is the car going to do? It is not going to have much impact. Just like a car without a driver, or just like we are going to visit somewhere, but we don't have a guide, and we don't have somebody to so we don't have a guide, and so you can say, okay, a picnic without a guide or a picnic without father who is going to finance the whole thing is going to be an empty experience, is it not? That is the idea in which we have to understand. The meaning is uh, the meaning is not in the effect. The meaning is in the person. The meaning is not in a job. The meaning is in relationship. This is the basic thing which people are missing in today's world. One time, one of our spiritual teachers, he made such an insightful statement. He said, why are people miserable in this world? Because the modern day outlook is that we love things and we use people. People are meant to be loved and things are meant to be used. But our mindset has become so much obsessed with the material energy, we love things and we use people. And that's why the whole society is in a hodgepodge state. It's a complete hodgepodge. Like one time, one of my friends who was looking for marriage, he was not getting anyone. He was getting a lot of proposals, but they were all getting rejected from the other side. So he was feeling very morose, and that why I am facing so many rejections. No. Uh, so then I tried to hear what is the story. So while hearing, he was telling cases after cases, and I wanted. So then I was trying to to ask him. So at one point of time, I asked him, okay, uh, if somebody asks you why do you want to marry, what is your answer? He says, my answer is very clear actually. I want somebody to cook for me. So my answer is I want somebody to cook for me like that. And I asked him, okay, is that all why you want to marry? He said yes, because somebody has to cook for me. That's why. I said that's why you're not getting anybody accepting your proposal. Why? Because I mean, if you just want somebody to cook for you, that is just uh, so that is an external job. But where are you? Where in your heart are you valuing the presence or the need of a person? Where in your understanding is the value of the relationship of the person being highlighted? It's all about tasks and jobs, and tasks you can get done by paying some crumbs of money. Why do you need a relationship then? And so this is the point. Many times uh, people feel that they can. People feel many times that yes, they can exploit the material energy. They can usurp they can exploit the material energy. Why do we need God? This okay, matter is there. We can channelize it, we can mold it, we can exploit it, and why do we need God actually? We have microscopes, we have testing facility, we have diagnosis facility. We can take matter, we can diagnose into the deeper angles of it. Why do we need God? So that may be very true, uh, or that may appear to be very true. Uh, But we have to understand that God is having administrator intervention powers. So it's just like in our day-to-day lives also we may have experienced that sometimes in our studies we learn something very meticulously. One may cram up things, memorize everything. The flowchart is very clear. One has practiced it, one knows it, one is very confident about it, and one sees that in the examination paper the same question is there. One is confident. Okay, this much marks. This time I am flying. I'm going to get flying colors in the form of marks. But then when one starts jotting down the answer, it's a multi-step answer, and step by step, steps are flowing very smooth. But at one point of time, one just gets stuck up, you know, and just at one point, one is wanting to remember. Or is that one point? What is that one point? That one point, and it remains at that point. And then the invigilator comes and he says, no point, time is up now, give it. And as soon as the paper goes off in the hands of the invigilator, one gets that point pops up like a eureka. Again, that point, but now it's gone. So this goes to show that many times we may cram up things. The students have this experience. All of us have this experience. We may be very sure that we know about it, but at the right moment we forget it. And therefore the Shastras explain that this is so because the knob or the switch of remembrance or forgetfulness is in God's hands. Matta smritim jnanam apohanam cha. So the Lord explains that He gives remembrance, forgetfulness, and inspiration to a person. So many times, observation everybody sees, but it is the very few who get inspired by that observation and they bring about a phenomenal change in the society and they rock it. Like say for example 18th century, apples were falling from the dawn of creation from the tree, is it not? And on many people apples might have fallen on their heads also. That's not a big, that observation is very common. But what was the difference with Isaac Newton was that he got an inspiration from that observation. And therefore he went deep into it, is it not? And therefore he came out with a phenomenal understanding of reality, the classical mechanics, is it not? So he started going deeper into it, and he discovered the law of gravity, is it not? Say for example. So mind it, he just discovered the law of gravity. The law of gravity is not invented by Newton; it is invented by God. Newton discovered it. So the point is that inspiration. So many times in life, all of us are having such such a plethora of observations. But it is God who turns a particular observation for a person to become not into an inspiration. That inspiration is what can bring about a phenomenal change in the destiny of the person and the destiny of mankind actually. So we need to understand that the control is with God. Therefore we need to, an intelligent person should always be subservient to God. An intelligent person should try to get clues from, always try to get not only clues, not extract out clues, but should always try to pray for the mercy and the divine directions of God. So in Srimad Bhagavatam it is explained that when sinful atheistic, materialistic people look at this material world, material nature does not reveal herself rightly and properly. So therefore, from a materialistic, atheistic attitude, this material world or this cosmic machinery can never be understood, because the material nature, the Maya Shakti is never going to reveal it, because the vision is materialistic, animalistic, atheistic, like that. Just like many times we will see in the world, in the society, many people don't reveal how rich they are. Many times they may not reveal how rich they are. So one who is not, one who is coming with an exploitative mentality, he gets cheated. Just like one person, he came to one big mansion, and he was coming from, he wanted to cheat out a lot of money, and he was coming with a business proposal, but he was too proud, too arrogant, and too sly, calculative, and he was going into that palatial building mansion, like that. He entered that mansion, and with great pride, he saw that in the mansion there was a gardener, Mali, who was in his banyan and everything, and he called him, very arrogantly, and misbehaved with him, and asked him to call the businessman and this and that, inform him, the owner. And later to his shock, he found that same Mali who was in his lungi and banyan, he was the owner of the business. Again. So the point to note is that externally one may not get the proper, just like one needs to develop a relationship to be able to get a proper revelation, or to be able to get a proper understanding of what is the reality. It's like I have seen myself in Calcutta, there is a very big market called as Bada Bazaar. And Bada Bazaar, there are these grocery shops, the huge grocery shops having a lot of granary storage and everything. And you will see that actually, outside the shop, there is a lala kind of a person. He's standing. He's wearing 300, 400 rupees, loose pajama, and he's wearing a banyan, and he has a 2 rupees pen which is hanging from his, and he has a sooty notebook, like that, and he is just writing and scribbling. One may say, okay, these people they don't earn much, middle class, lower middle class fellows and all that. So one of our devotees, he was collecting funds for Rath Yatra. So in Calcutta, our Rath Yatra festival is attended by 10 lakh people, and there is khichdi prasad distribution for every visitor actually. So he wanted to collect some funds, and he went to the shop. He was explaining about Rath Yatra and all. That man was, no, this devotee was feeling, इससे मांगेगी नहीं, ये 100-200 रुपए 1000 रुपए देगा max. His banyan was torn, वो फटा हुआ था, 3-4 जगह पे, like that, The pajama was looking very, dirty, जैसे कि, as if 3 साल से उसी को घसीट रहा है, like that, And the chappal was 50 rupees, that way. And this is how this person was, a 2 rupees pen, like that, and anyways he thought, okay, still let us try. So he proposed to him, he showed him the brochure, he showed him Rath Yatra, how much impact it can do for the society, and it actually brings about an auspicious wave in hearts of people. It brings about a shower of mercy for the whole humanity, and in that way he was talking that there is food distribution and a program and you can help. So this man actually scratched his head, and he was scratching the back of his pen on his head and all that. He listened and everything like that. And on the spot, uh, yeah, he gave donation for a few hundred kilos of dal, which was coming out to be worth, I believe it was 5 lakh or 10 lakh worth of donation. And immediately that much dal. And the devotee got a shock of his life. So the point is that one may think that okay, so this is a lower middle class bhikari kind of a person, but then he gave a 10 lakh donation, one shot, like that. So in the same way, to an outsider, material energy is not going to reveal what is the reality, but only one who develops a proper relationship, then only the material energy will reveal. So therefore, from an atheistic, mechanistic, materialistic attitude, one can never understand this world. One can never understand how we can be happy in this world, how we can be happy in the various situations in our life. But only when we develop a relationship with the Lord, then material energy will reveal. In every situation, we can see how we can drive out meaning and fulfillment in that situation. So in Bhagavad Gita it is explained, Bhagavad Gita 9:10 explains, Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. This material energy, which is one of my energies, is working under my directions, Lord Krishna is saying. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and unmoving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So it is the Lord. This material energy is overwhelming, is very complicated, is reserved. The material energy is not going to reveal. But the Lord is telling, this material energy like a bulldog, German shepherd, very difficult to combat. But the Lord is explaining that this material energy is working under my directions. So this universe is very complicated, overwhelming, mind-boggling. But one of our great acharyas, Srila Sukadev Goswami, explains this material world in such a beautiful way. He explains that, what is this universe? In the pages of Bhagavatam, this explanation comes, and he is explaining, Sukadev Maharaj is explaining that the Supreme Lord, just like sometimes a small child, he plays with the lattu. A small child takes a lattu tied up with a thread and unwinds the thread. And when he unwinds the thread as a sport, as a play, the lattu takes a trajectory, a round trajectory, saucering around, rotation, revolution, everything, and follows a powerful trajectory. But that is just that is a sport, a sportish, playful proclivity of the child. the Supreme Lord creates the universe. In the same way, the Supreme Lord, in his sportish, playful proclivity, universe, which is so complicated, which is so overwhelming. So the point we have to understand that in this way, the Supreme Lord is behind this world. And when we understand this, then we will see that we, in that situation, when we revive his relationship with God, then whatever is happening in this world externally will become a sportive pastime, will become a will become a sportive pastime. You know, when the Lord is present, it is a pastime. Is it not? Just like we see in the land of Vrindavan, Lord Krishna would be playing with the cowherd boys. So they would be playing in many variegated ways, in many playful ways. This play will be going on, and they would be relishing, and in this way, they would be increasing uh, the ocean of bliss and ananda, by churning their relationships. But you will see in Vrindavan, in Vrindavan, when the Lord would be going out herding the cows to Govardhan, every single day a demon would be coming. Now, when the demon would be coming, the demon would be coming to devour. So then that means that there is a catastrophe in the offing. But because the Gopas knew that Krishna is there on their side, they would be absolutely fearless. Why? Because they knew that if Krishna is there, then there is nothing inauspicious, nothing can devour us. And therefore, and they would see every day with great delight, and they would be waiting for that moment to see how Krishna devours the most devouring. How Krishna not devours, not the how Krishna smashes to dust and powder every such mishap or calamity or catastrophe. And that whole scene would become a sportive proclivity for all of them. In fact, every day they would look forward. Aaj kaun aane wala hai? Let us see, who is the demon who will come today, and we will see how our Krishna so wonderfully will smash him off. In fact, every day demon coming, the demon just before lunch every day. There was a fixed timing for them, uh, and and after of the experience of relating, churning the love with Krishna and seeing how Krishna protects them, that would increase their appetite. All of them would become increasingly hungry, and then after that, on the banks of Yamuna, they would be honoring lunch prasad. So and then so this would act as an appetizer in that way. So in this way, we can understand that only a devotee can understand how to churn out that meaning. The Lord reveals, the material energy will reveal to a devotee how to churn out meaning and fulfillment, how to drive through every kind of situation, positive or negative. The positive situation should not intoxicate us or bewitch us, and we should not get drowned into pride and arrogance or superiority complex, and a negative situation should not drown us into inferiority or envy or self-destructive habits or breakdown. So in this way we can understand that everything in this world, in this way we can understand that everything in this world is in that way encrypted. Everything in this world is in bits and pieces. And the Lord explains that what is that lotion or what is that gel which binds everything into a full holistic vision. That is Premanjana. That is tears of love in one's eyes. When one has tears of love of God in one's eyes, then all these bits and pieces come together in a very holistic vision. In a very holistic vision. So, so it is this tears of love, which can actually join these bits and pieces, which can decrypt, and therefore, whatever the message was apparently appearing to be titillating or challenging or crushing, one can derive meaning, and in this way, one can lead a fulfilling and powerful life. Then one can steer through thick and thin, and one can make the best out of this life and lock or lock one's one's position, or we can say lock one's seat uh, in the spiritual world actually, or no, lock one's seat and drive oneself to a meaningful life, and drive oneself beyond this life into the kingdom of God, which is eternally the place of mirth and merry. Thank you. So to summarize today, we studied about that we studied two prominent threads of reasonable faith. That the first thread was about knowledge, that the dimensions of so real knowledge lies in knowing matter uh, uh, and in knowing matter, spirit, and the controller of both. We saw so in which we saw that how a mechanistic science misses on the most important dimension to our life, or the most important aspect of experience. So to add that, we have to understand, we have to add spirit, but spirit is limited. Spirit is like a limited controller, and the unlimited control or the supreme control lies with God, the supreme spirit. And therefore, if one knows all the three and relates and his activities are projecting on all the three planes, then that is real knowledge. The second thread which we were trying to talk about was that a machine is not as important as the driver of the machine. So if we know how to relate with the driver of the machine is a free gift for us. So in that way, for a devotee, the material world, a devotee can actually enjoy and relish the material world, but it comes as a free gift. And because the devotee knows he has established his relationship with God. So any questions for today? So next Saturday we will continue our journey on further dimensions of faith. So what is the dimension of faith of next week? What further insights we are going to churn, and which amazing revelations of the Shastras we are going to churn. For all that, be there with us next Saturday.